Welcome to Reality After Show coverage of the Challenge All Stars 4, Episode 3. I'm Dan Montchal, and I'm joined by two people that I would never describe as toxic as fuck. That's my ride or die, Alex Trias, and joined again all season long, making her return, Lauren Pratt. Alex, Lauren, how are you guys doing?
Well, I would always say I'm toxic as fuck on these podcasts. We see the comments sometimes from the haters. I think they would call me that. You know what? They're wrong. They're wrong, okay? I'm in my Ayana mode. I never said those things.
That's true. They have to be able to prove it, right? And so
They definitely don't have footage that they'll keep going back to that will prove I said the things that they're claiming I said.
the constant rewind. Here's the flashback. It's crazy. I think about this sometimes. I do believe sometimes people do say things and they actually don't remember saying it. But in Ayana's case, I do think Ayana absolutely remembers saying it, but she's just doing her shtick, you know?
You have to go full into the bit. And you have to make yourself believe whatever shit you're saying is the truth. But Ayana, one thing we can't say is that she wasn't TV.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it's entertainment. And just speaking of the entertainment, starting the episode, we have the previously on, and it's just the way that they edit these all-star seasons is perfect, where you have Tina giving the recap and they come back into the house and Lucky by Britney Spears is playing. Like, just phenomenal.
Yes, I love how they're doing it this season even more. Like, it's not even just a previously on the chance. Like, you have the winner of the elimination at this point in time giving the recap and letting them have their like little bias jokes in there as they're giving their version of what happened. I don't know. It's more fun. It's more fun.
I have always enjoyed how they've brought all stars in with the previously on. I think it's perfect. So just a little bit of the snippet that we need. It's not overly too long. So I hope they keep continuing to do it just as well as they've been doing it.
Agreed. They've been killing it. So the first thing we see is something we rarely see on the challenge now. Well, especially since, like the T-Mobile sidekick, has left. They got a clue is Cam and Leroy. I guess they have a phone. I don't know if it's their phone and they're allowing them to have it because of their situation or what's going on. But they're looking at pictures and videos of Kingston and just, reminiscing of how fast he's growing, how much they miss him. And Leroy makes the joke that if Cam wants to win, he's perfectly fine being a stay-at-home dad.
And we know that. And based off how this season's currently going, is there a case that Leroy is purposely tanking in these dailies to further push the Cam that Cam's the breadwinner that needs to go out and do these challenges?
I just think he's just not having a good run yet. I think some of these challenges, if you look at the other one that he didn't do so hot in, was the one running up the hill and slotting in pieces. So maybe just anything that involves putting pieces together is not for Leroy.
It could be. Yeah, I think he's still just trying to find his footing again. I hate to say it because I don't want to see him down in elimination, but I almost feel like that's what he needs to kind of a nice physical elimination to get his juices flowing again.
Okay. Well, based off how the story's going, we might see that. We might see that soon. Like obviously in this episode, where it's made very clear that Leroy and Cam are very well connected in this cast coming in, or at least like half the group, according to Brandon, is like on their side. So it may be a bit before we see that, unless there's like a spot in the game where if you're last and it's just like very clear, like only two guys were last or whatever. I don't know, but I could see it happening sooner than later for him.
Well, and two, you also can see some people throw rogue votes. I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but that can change the dynamic of people voting for elimination. We've seen it in previous challenge seasons where someone's not supposed to go in, but then people start throwing the rogue votes. Then someone goes, oh, this person got a vote. I actually would like them to go in, but I didn't think people were going to go that way. And then all of a sudden they do, and that's how you end up in elimination sometimes, which is wild.
And you know what? I would have followed Ace.
Well, it could have been the rogue vote, or it also, we see how well, Cam and Leroy are connected. I think it's only a matter of time just based upon who's going to finish at the bottom, that they're going to have to turn on someone. And it could also be that they throw someone into elimination that they think, oh, I'm cool with Leroy and Cam. And then they win elimination, they come back, and they're like, all right, you threw me in. Cam, I'm going after your guy.
And that's totally possible that we could see happening, just also because of how we see some of Cam's reactions in this episode to things that really ultimately are inconsequential, but they make it a bigger deal than what it is. So the tiniest thing in this house will cause things to flip on its head. So that's something we'll just have to keep an eye on, because it's obvious here that Cam is going to be a focal point in this show.
To see though if the roles are reversed. So say Cam is on the bottom and Leroy's in the group that has the power. Is he going to have as much swing, much pull? Because we've always seen that Cam's political game is better than Leroy's political game.
Mm-hmm. And in Ayana's words, even though I don't agree with her words, like Leroy isn't quote unquote loud like Cam is in terms of like the political game of spreading what they want to happen and forcing it to happen. Like he's very much more of a, I'm leaning back, I know where I'm voting, I'm not going to argue about it.
Yeah, that's very true. He may not be able to push that as much. And I think we stated it last week. It's been, clear throughout their entire, run on the show is just everyone likes Leroy. We know a lot of people like Cam, but not as much as they like Leroy, that it could be easier to rally the votes against Cam if she were to go down there. But we do see a nice moment next is I didn't realize, that Rachel and Ayana knew each other, but it makes sense. They both come from a similar time starting out. But she's really trying to help Ayana out, being like, hey, sometimes less is more. And before we really start to, turn against Ayana here, I think it's a nice moment where we get everything from Ayana talking about how much Rachel has helped her.
No, I agree. And I think it's purposeful here because the one great thing, or I shouldn't say the one, but a great thing about Ayana on this show is she's a very complex character. Like there's the spots within the same episode where maybe you're not pulling for her, but you are empathetic to her and her situation. And like, it's encouraging seeing that she's like, oh, I realized after the first All-Stars, like I needed to get my life back in order. And Rachel's fitness videos was a big thing that inspired me, and she's continued to push me to this day. And it helps flesh out a good relationship that the viewers wouldn't know. So it's just good editing. It's good editing. It's good storytelling of helping create the construct of this specific episode.
Well, and two, it's always up and down with Ayana. She has moments where she goes after people, but then people go back at her, and then she feels, oh, I'm a little bit hurt by this, but you do the same thing to them, so it's kind of contradicting yourself a little bit. But yes, it's overall great editing what they do, because you see all the different components of Ayana.
Absolutely.
And it also sort of shows Rachel more to people who like, because Rachel hasn't been on the show in a long time. It's been
X's?
a while.
I think X's with Anissa, which,
Yeah,
and I think it's the newer fans, they don't understand how dominant Rachel was at this game. Like she's not listed in kind of that Mount Rushmore of females, but if she gets one more win anywhere, she very well could be. I mean, go back all the way to the Duel 2, like she finished first. She beat Brad, Evan, Mark. She was against Anissa, and I'm blanking on the other woman that was in the final, but like she's dominant in this game.
Well, you can take out Anissa on your list of what makes it impressive that she beat all these group of people. Big Easy beat Anissa, so it's like
it was Anissa when she was in shape. She was in shape. She was more back then, but I was making the point more of she finished before Brad and Evan in that final.
Oh, for sure,
right.
and that part's noted. But you forget how Rachel plays, at least. And the approach she has this season is very old school. It's very like, I have my friends, I'm good with them, but she's very straightforward. She's not like, she doesn't really have a hidden agenda. Everyone sort of knows where she stands and she's like, I don't care. I'll say in a room that I'm friends with you, even if everyone else is bashing you. Like, and I'm going to tell you how it is, which I think is a good quality to have in a game like this.
I agree. I also think, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the biggest mixture, I would say, of the old school people and a little bit of the newer crowd mixed into an all-star season, right?
Yeah,
It's
until All Stars 5's official cast is released.
We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to.
We're on
not
4.
there.
Not 5 yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that also changes the dynamics as well, because can you adjust to what the times are? Because the newer school want to do something different. The older school obviously want to do not the same thing either. So it's just dependent on which group really can rally and pull the numbers. And it's also basically who you know too. We see it.
And that's a big focal point in this episode, specifically for like the smaller storyline, which is the guys' elimination. And it's people that are old school that either didn't face eliminations or it was like more so of like an honor thing of like, oh, I didn't do well on this day. I get it. I have to go down the stand instead of fighting for your case to not go down.
Yeah, and it was going to bother me. The third woman in that final was Brittany Sherrod. It took me a second to come up with that name. We only saw her on one season. She had a good performance, but yeah, it was dominant by Rachel. Next, we hate to see it, is Tony comes and wakes up Nicole saying he got a call from home. Unfortunately, he has to go. And it's tough. I think everyone was excited to see Tony come back, but unfortunately, it's getting cut a little bit short.
Tony, for either his own reasons or others, is this like an enigma player for me? Because in a box, Tony is a great player. He is and can be very good at the challenge. He also seems to find a way through happenstance, whether it's injury, family, whatever, to go out very early on a lot of his seasons and yet still be extremely loved.
He's very loved by tons of people. It's just unfortunate to see, because I think we talked about this last week. He looks so good, in shape, ready to go. I think he was going to do an awesome run on this season.
It was set up well for him, just because, as we were talking about last week, is the women's cast is stacked. It's tons of past performances, strong competitors. You could have made an argument so many different ways of this is one of the best female casts we've seen in a while. But you look at it on the men's side, would make you think that Tony could have made a great run, is because we don't have that. Not saying that there aren't good challengers out there, but none that we've really seen put together good runs on seasons. Like, Tony's one of the best on paper when it just came to the guys on this cast.
Like, still has his dumb moments. Is why we love him. But yeah, if you look on the guy's side, like, and especially just through the first couple episodes, it's like, yeah, Brad, who's always just going to, especially in an all-stars format, is going to be on the upper tier of performers from the guy's side. Adam's been showcasing very well in these. And then you have like a couple other names of people who are doing like decent. Like, no one that's like standing out. But like one person who is my, is my winner pick, who's very good, very mid right now. JGMTV. He's always placing higher. But jokes aside, it's like from a guy's perspective, I feel he could do well. Obviously, depending on types of eliminations, he could struggle on. But like, for example, the one tonight or for this episode, I think he would have done very well on, because he has the size, he has the build, and the athleticism for it.
100%.
Right. It just depends what you get. It all comes down to what the elimination is. Yes.
And tangent here. Side note. This is our podcast. We do it all the time. For the elimination last night, you know what I really wanted to see, Dan? Because it's All Stars. I'm always going to pull here. Kefla, instead of Cyrus, Latarian. Let's have Latarian and Kefla go at it in a physical elimination. Come on.
Latarian's just the permanent elimination mercenary for physical eliminations.
Yeah, like, I don't care. I'm like always calling him. He's like, no, I'm across the country. No, you're coming here right now. Latarian. Ace is here. We got a plunger for you. Come on.
Well, I'm sure Ace saw and goes, "Thank God I'm not in there on this one. He would have gotten
Let's
destroyed."
not go into Ace. I don't understand why Ace is here.
He seems to be pretty well liked, though. We
Oh
don't
no,
understand it because we're not seeing
he's
it, but
very
he's
well
well
liked.
liked.
He's well liked. People like Kara keeps picking him for her teams that she's in. Probably because he doesn't think about the game at all. He's just like, oh, I'm just here. I'll do the stuff. I don't want to vote. I'll vote whoever because I love everybody apparently. But it's like, I don't know. He's more of an enigma for me. Of like, I just don't understand him.
He's the dude. Apparently,
He is the dude.
I think they could have had Cyrus,
Just from jump.
Yeah, switch them, or don't even have Ace as
I
an
don't know.
alternate.
There's
I
an
don't know.
appeal. There's an appeal to me now, and love you, Cyrus. Of Cyrus just coming in for an episode and going home.
It's a story.
Hey, best shape of his life.
He looks great. He looks great.
51, dude looks fit. Just as they said, wrong season to cut a bunch of weight.
Well, wrong elimination for it. Before they bring in Cyrus, what we do see going back to Tony leaving is we went really quick from Laurel going, I'm not going to speak to Nicole. I'm going to pretend she's not here, to going to comfort her, knowing that that's what Nicole needs. And it's like, oh no, you can see the car crash happening in front of you. Like, please don't. Oh, you're going to do it.
Yeah, I said it last week on the podcast. I'm like, I know it's happening. We all know it's happening. I hate that I have to watch it happen. But at the same time, I feel like if I was in Laurel's shoes in like a similar situation, I would also be reacting in the same way, just because that's like the empathetic side of me. It's like, even if I don't like you anymore, there's still a part of me that remembers when I did, and I know how you would feel here. And I'm like, no one else would know how to comfort you the way that I would comfort you here.
You see it all the time with people. If you know someone truly very, very well, you're going to go be there for them. You're going to go by their side. And I liked the moment. I wasn't mad about it. I think it was very sweet. It wasn't over the top. Now I'm still waiting for, I think we're going to see more arguments between them. I think we're going to see more moments such as this one. It's just going to be for those two an up and down season, I think, the entire time.
I feel like that's just Laurel in a nutshell, though. That's who Laurel is. She will love you and then also berate the ever living shit out of you.
Destroy you.
Maybe
Literally.
within the same day. You don't know.
Oh, very well. Yeah, it's on brand. You look at almost every season that she's on, and she has a few of those very confrontational moments, and you almost see every season that she's on that roller coaster of someone going from, oh, her best friend to mortal enemy, or vice versa, just because outside of a select few, she can't seem to determine how she feels about some people.
I just hope no one in
changing.
this. I hope no one in this cast wears a purple shirt or an orange jacket. Is all I'm gonna say.
No, not Michelle.
Boy.
And when she's on All Stars 5,
right?
Quite possible. So yeah, we already hinted at it. They get to the daily. Cyrus is coming in. He's the replacement for Tony. Which takes us right into the daily, which is Domino Motherfucker, which is just a giant game of dominoes. You have, your board in the middle, your domino in the middle, and you need to make a 10-piece run.
I also just I can't speak on it as much because of who I am and how I grew up, but I know the significance of dominoes for various types of people. So I feel like you see dominoes and you're either very excited that it's dominoes, or you're like, oh crap, the pressure is now so real. Because when my friends and family see this and I flop at dominoes, I'll never hear the end of it.
This is why I appreciate when they have Jasmine on the seasons, because then you get her bite of explaining dominoes And I love it every time because she always has these good, quick confessionals that are very funny. And that's why I enjoy her as a cast member. No matter how she does in the particular challenges, I think she deserves to be there because you can't have everyone that's good at everything. You have to have the characters, you have to have the people that can give you the one-liners and confessionals.
Oh, for sure. And like, I'm sorry, Jasmine. You need to have people that you just know aren't going to win. And as long as you're not going to be able to win, but you still give us a good confessional or two, you're good in my book. Like between her and Kefla, I was cracking up. Like the end of the challenge, and Kefla's just like, well, you're looking at all the guys who are eliminated right here, and it cuts to him, cuts to Cyrus, cuts to Leroy. It's like, our families should be ashamed of us. Kefla low key. I like. I need y'all's opinion on this. He might be one of my favorite people on this cast right now.
Yes.
Oh, I love him. He's been delivering. He continues to deliver as this episode goes on. And I think we're really seeing more and more of him, which I'm excited for because I'm not expecting him to win by any means, but I think he's going to have a good run in this game. And all it looks like is the more we put of him on screen, the more entertaining he is.
Yeah, like
all for this Kefla run.
Like he's not there to play the political game or like how the challenge is today. But he's aware. Like he didn't come into this being like, oh, we'll just go based off challenge performance or whatever. He's like, he quickly realizes, oh, people are talking about relationships. Well, I don't have relationships, so I guess I might as well just be ready to go down there and like hit that sand and hit it hard because I may not have relationships, but I could intimidate at the very least through performance. And I don't know. I'm just like, where has this dude been? Where has this dude been? We had 3 other All-Star seasons and you couldn't get Kefla for any of them. Like, it's always the people that I'm not expecting that come onto the show. And I'm just like, more times than not, I'm left so satisfied.
Well, maybe they did contact him because if you remember in episode 1, he said he almost wasn't supposed to be here for the season when he finished the challenge. So I think maybe he did get contacted by them, or I'm not sure. However, I think I'd be fine seeing Kefla every season. I think he is just very passionate about the game, and that's what you need to see is the passion there. And he's going to give it his all no matter what. He's not going to let anyone break him because he knows what the game is in terms of the political aspect, but he's choosing to do what Kefla wants to do, which I think that's refreshing, even though Ace did the same thing with, I just don't want to follow the group. Well, I think you're just doing that just to do that. Whereas Kefla, I think, is just doing what he has to do to get through the game.
No, like Kefla still makes a decision. Like Kefla makes a choice of based on the game. Ace is making votes because he's like, well, I just want to do it because all of you are voting the same anyway. So I just want to throw something out there because I don't even like voting. I'm like, God. Ace is getting close to a certain tier.
He's something.
But with someone who also's name begins with an A.
Oh, come on. He can't be that bad.
He's creeping up there.
That's the person you're talking about. That's 20 seasons in the making, Alex. You're saying Ace is getting there in like 6?
Hey, it's impressive how much he's making me feel this way. But anyway, with this challenge, I thought it was also very interesting that instead of like creating random pairs, they just let them like scatter and create their own guy-girl pairs. Because we also know it's a double elimination. A guy and a girl's leaving, and Cyrus is just like, bro, I just got here. I got here. And you know how I'm going to make sure I win? I'm going to partner up with Ayana.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. It's most of the pairs I think somewhat made sense, but it's nice to see, people that like each other are working together. And I definitely wouldn't have had it on my bingo card that Adam and Avery run this game in this particular daily. I was shocked.
Oh. They worked great together. It was awesome to see how they paired up. And I would love Adam as a partner because he seemed so supportive of her and vice versa, her with him. They just had the perfect dynamic with each other. I thought it was interesting, though, that Leroy went with Flora. I found that interesting. I think it made absolute sense that him and Cam split up. That made sense, but I was surprised to see him Flora, though.
I think what happened was Leroy originally wanted to be partnered up with Cam and then had to be explained to by Cam why they shouldn't be paired. And by the time he has to go and look for another person, the only person left is Flora.
Yeah, exactly. Because in that point, if you're Leroy, he should know I can't be partnered with Cam because of his relationship. He should be running straight to Kara.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But also, you have Flora, who is inspired by her Ukrainian tennis daughter who beats people 10 times her size. So she'll only shit herself once.
Well, she did just say that, I guess he asked her and she said she won't quit, and that was good enough for Leroy. But yeah, it was interesting. I like seeing we got to really see how most of the pairs were working. We got little snippets of them, and it was nice to see who was working well together, who wasn't. I mean, you have Derek, who's beyond frustrated with V just because not moving as fast as what he would like.
I mean, he's saying the quiet part out loud. He's I feel for Derek. Derek keeps getting bad. Like, Derek is trying his best. I will give him that. But he's been having some bad luck with these pairings.
Well, he always has bad luck in general every season that he's on, pretty much. It's always, we love Derek as a person. We think Derek's nice, like easygoing, but I was shocked this season that we didn't see him going into elimination first because that's on brand, but that's why I think he was out of elimination first because people didn't want to see the repeat for him.
Well, I think Ryan is a big reason because, Ryan came back for some of the earlier seasons of All Stars. He's been doing the Challenge Mania events. I think Ryan has gotten a lot more rapport that's being underreported amongst the people that get put onto All Stars. So that and also Ryan equates him or he equates each other to Cam and Leroy, who are married. So they're basically just as powerful.
Pretty much, but I agree with that. I think it's Ryan that's really protecting him because we've seen it with Derek is normally when he comes into a season, he does have a few people that really have his back, but it's just never in the numbers. They're always in the smaller group. And I think this is the first time since really when he was with Battle of the Seasons with Cancun that he's in a more powerful position in the game.
I agree. And the one thing that's really interesting about this season is while there are bigger groups, I think this game is being very dominated by small groupings of people, like pairs, trios. You had the Rachel, Tina, and Veronica segment, which I'm going to speak on when we get to the end of this episode because I think they ultimately made some very poor choices. But I think it's going to be very interesting to see as the season goes on. Are we going to see certain pairs bouncing around and who actually has the power? Do they come together? Are they going to straight go head to head against each other because you all see these little factions forming? I don't know. It's just very intriguing.
I think it's another impact on Nicole's game with Tony leaving because you had Tony, Jay, Nicole, and so then when you cut one loose, that definitely hurts your game. But she still does have Jay, which is going to be helpful for her. But I think the trios are another thing because you have Jasmine that's with Derek, Ryan, and I think Avery's sprinkled in with them a little bit because of Derek and her relationship. Yeah.
I think it makes it interesting because when we talk about, the flagship version of the show, it's always dominated by these larger alliances. And the fact that we have a bunch of smaller ones. Alliance, sorry. Here we have a bunch of smaller alliances, which means that depending upon who wins and who's in that bottom group, the game can always change because you could be in the larger group as this moves on, but you have the smaller group that wins the daily, and it could very well flip everything on its head.
Yeah. And us being another weekend now, I'm even more on board with this format. Like, you win to keep yourself safe. There's a specific middle tier, and those people get the vote, and then you have a clear bottom. And it's not just like, and I guess like you sort of get the people on the bottom and out by it not being like automatic last place is in, but you allow the game to be played because now you have like a small sample of options for the middle group to vote between. So I'm enjoying this layout, and like you had the potential of big things happening in this episode because, like, for example, you have Rachel and Brad together as a pair, and you're like, oh yeah, they're just gonna beast this. Like, Brad isn't dumb. Like, he's done well in like mental style physical comps, but like they just make one mistake because there's two dominoes that don't match with anything in their set, and they put one of them down. And by that point, everyone else is already finishing, so they sort of just have to hope that they don't get picked to be put in elimination.
Yeah, so how it breaks down is Adam and Avery win. Adam even equates Avery to being Wonder Woman out there. So they're the winners of it. Next, followed by Cara and Ace, Nicole and Jay, Laurel and Brandon, Jasmine and Steve, and Cam and Ryan make up the rest of that middle group. And the bottom group is Leroy and Flora, Rachel and Brad, Kefla and Tina, Derek and V, and Cyrus and Ayana.
And so you have the full trio down, which, because at the beginning of the episode, you had Veronica talking about like how those three are in such a great spot just for them now to all be vulnerable. So you have like that confessional of her afterwards where she's like, oh man, like if these people are smart, we're doomed. Like, they are going to put two of us down there against each other. And then whatever happens from there. If only they had an out. If only they had some wild card in there that was causing friction amongst everybody in the house.
Cue Ayana, because as soon as we get back, it's Brandon's talking about what he heard Ayana say at the challenge, and everything just goes loose from here.
Hey, him and Flora. Flora did some game here.
Love the little sprinkle of Flora in it, though. I think it's just so fitting for her character development.
Yeah, her character development. She's like, hey, it helped her stay out. She had a few, like, I fully believe she would have been one of the votes if this whole Ayana explosion didn't happen. So, like, her helping, like, say, like, yeah, Ayana's been saying this shit helps. Yeah, because Ayana was partnered with Cyrus, who's, like, getting filled in on what's happening. It was either she was saying it to Cyrus or she was saying it to Kefla as they were walking around, that they overheard her saying, like, Cam and Leroy are essentially a pair. I'm like, essentially, they're married, but continue. And she's like, oh, they have to get split up. Because they'll vote with each other. I'm like, again, everyone knows this. This isn't, like, news breaking, like, information. They are a married couple.
Yeah. Before we get into really, the meat of this whole Ayana thing, I do love, speaking of Kefla and just bringing great TV, he equates to coming back to the challenge after 24 years as having a one-night stand and finding out 20 years later he has a child, which was just it's perfect.
Yes. Everything he's doing so far is perfect. I don't see a flaw yet, and I hope I never see a flaw.
I mean, the flaw is he doesn't play the political game, but honestly, I think that's a strength for him.
Yeah, I don't see that as a negative. And this is where we really start to see the whole Ayana thing blow up. They're out at the club or whatever this is, where they're all out drinking and having fun. I guess it's not a club because Ayana's like laying down in a bed inside of a trailer. But Cam is pissed because it's getting back to her. And so Laurel, being Laurel, is just like, oh, we're not going to play this game. I'm just going to go front Ayana and hear it right from her what she said.
But, like, she doesn't confront her, I feel, in a way. Like, does it come across a certain way when Cam brings it up? Yes. I'll even admit that. But Ayana answers the question immediately by not answering the question, and just instantly, because she's like, I'm so tired right now. Like, I really don't want to do it. And it's also Ayana just trying to avoid it all by saying that. But as soon as Camp just makes that one statement of, some people have told me that at the challenge you said this, she immediately turns up. And it's like, well, who said it? Who said it? And like starts getting loud. It's like, I didn't even want this today. But you know what? I'm going to start yelling for a half an hour at every single person and accuse each of them of whether or not they are telling you. Because you can't ask the person who's asking for this information, well, who told you? Well, I'm like, obviously I'm asking you this because I don't trust you right now. So why would I reveal the people who do trust me and they were okay with me asking you? I'm not going to reveal that. But you're answering the question by avoiding it because all you needed to say was yes or no. But instead, you're making this whole spectacle about it, which now puts everyone at this point of, no, we just want to take you out. Like, you start yelling about Jasmine for no fucking reason. Like, yeah, and then just like you're attacking these people that you had just spent a 2-hour diatribe last episode saying how you would never vote for them. And like,
well, Jasmine's the wrong one. She's the wrong one. She's
yeah,
not
you
one
are
that
the
go
wrong
after.
one.
And this is why you have Jasmine on the season, which is also perfect. While the two of Jasmine and Ayana are going back and forth, you just have Brad in the background, like eating a brownie.
Yes. I mean, but also look at the way the whole interaction went down as well. So if you're having Cam and Ayana, I agree with you, Alex. The first thing you say is yes or no, because you look as though you 100% did say, if you're asking, show me the people who said that. Because if you didn't do it, you just say no. But if you're going already on that defense mechanism right there, then it makes you look so suspicious as if it is absolutely valid that you did say that information.
Yeah,
exactly. It was bad. I would say another good moment is finally when Ayana goes. It's Rachel's trying to calm her down. We see another scene between the two of them, and Rachel's saying, no, sometimes people just twist words and turn it into, things that are not to make people upset, which the irony there, because that's exactly what Ayana did the previous episode. It's just gold.
Right. Oh yeah, it was not lost on me. It's also not lost on me when Ayana says like certain people just decide to be loud and they got their way. I'm like, what were you last episode, Ayana? And did you get your way? Did you get this girl to straight up quit?
Yeah. It's rough, but you mentioned Alex, because like in between all these scenes, it'd be so easy to just, I can't stand Ayana, like get her out of there. But when she was having that conversation with Laurel, you see how much the money would mean to her, saying that her kids have never had their own bedroom. And so she's just such a complex and dynamic character. It's almost like you're being pulled in so many different directions that, sure, the overwhelming may be, all right, we should probably get her out of there, but you still have to feel for her in some ways.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I get it. I'm trying to buy a house too. You need a lot of money. You need a lot of money to put a competitive offer to get a house, and a house big enough for what she's looking for. Like, you're not talking about like just like a 2-bedroom. Like, you're talking about like a 4-bedroom. You gotta need to have like 3 baths, like multiple stories. Like, that costs coin. That costs a lot of coin. $250,000 couldn't pay for an entire house, but it could definitely help pay a down payment.
For sure. It definitely would help. Any money helps to put a down payment on. I will say too, that's what we talked about, like the complexity of Ayana as a whole, because you're sitting there as a viewer watching, okay, I feel for you for this 20-second moment, but then something else happens where the flip switches and you go, oh wait, actually I don't feel for you. I want you to probably leave because this is not great and you're treating people terribly. And then it's just the repeat of the cycle. We saw it on the previous season, that's why productions says to themselves, great for television, because I think sometimes people just don't know which way to feel, and you find yourself feeling one way one moment and then it changes instantly the next.
Like, I hate talking about them as if like they're just like pieces on a board, but it's like there's storylines that just fit in a certain box. And like Ayana's storyline and how they wanted to show her journey in it fit just being these first few episodes. Because like now you're starting to see the sprinkles of the other drama that's like bubbling underneath the surface post this episode. So like this was a good arc for the season that didn't need to go further.
Yeah, I think 3 episodes in, we got what we needed from this. It's all right to
Like,
kind of
yeah,
cut her loose and move on.
the issue is like if she stayed longer, we would have had some what I would like to call, for those who watch Survivor, the Banu effect.
Oh, no.
And at a certain point it would get to a point where we would all not be entertained anymore by the antics and just be like, this is insufferable, stop shoving this same storyline in our face week after week, we need something new. So we're avoiding that, which is great.
Yeah, we do move on next to, it's the scene that Cam doesn't want to show weakness to Ayana, showing that she got to her at all, and especially while she's pumping her breast milk. And so you see the scene between her and Leroy, and they're coming up with, all right, this is what we need to do. We need to send in Ayana and Rachel to take her out. And it's a nice scene. I think what I'm worried about for them moving forward is, because Cam and Leroy have been a big topic these first few weeks, is as great as Cam is politically, I think, one, she's a tad overrated, and two, I could see the unraveling of her game being, I need to make this decision of who's going. And I think here she's making up her mind. This is what needs to happen. But if she keeps down this path moving forward, I think it's going to be bad for her and Leroy.
Probably. The issue is you have to deal with her. And one of the things she's best known for, and the thing that like her stats prove she's one of the better at, is elimination. And in a season where elimination matters and is the main driver of this game, good luck. Like, you are only going to be able to have her go down there against the best of the best that you have available, because is she losing to Veronica? Is she losing to Tina, to Flora? Like, half of
Jasmine.
Jasmine.
You know.
Like that's requiring a Rachel, a Cara, a Laurel to be like, yeah, I will go down there and take her out. When most of them at this point in the game don't feel that as a need.
No, that's fair. And I just want to point out, the whole reason why I say I think she's a little bit overrated politically is because her final reckoning move gets all the praise in the world, and I still don't understand it for the life of me. Is she, has all this chaos around this house of, oh, what's going to happen? This is my move to make, and it's to throw the two rookies in against each other. I've never understood why she's propped up so much for that move. But that's just me personally.
Yeah. Me personally, I don't prop her up for that move. I prop her up for like the actual shit she does in games and her performances and placements. Like, she could win a season, and for that, I put her higher. Like, she can't be in the conversation of best to play until she has some chips behind her. Like, this isn't like real sports where you don't need to have chips to be declared among the best.
Mm-hmm.
You do here.
That championship.
Mm-hmm. We can't be Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark gets to be a superstar and an all-timer without having a win because of the format of the game that she plays. The challenge you can win solo in a pair. Like it's not a team effort. You could do it. And
especially now, because there's so many variations of the challenge. There's many more opportunities to win seasons of the challenge because it's on all the time now.
Yeah.
It's 24/7, 365.
But then I think the next scene is the Rachel and Cara conversation.
Yeah, that's the last one before we get to deliberation, where Cara is saying that she wants them to kind of work together and saying that she isn't going to go against her or vote against her.
Which is very Cara. Like, Cara really, outside of like War of the Worlds, where like it was just very toxic environment. I feel like Cara's always been the person who hasn't necessarily, it's not that she doesn't care to be political, but she's very much like, I just had to get to the end and then I have a solid chance of winning. It's like she doesn't really care about who else is there with her. So like even if you're putting a strong competitor next to her, it's more of like an iron sharpens iron type of deal. So like it made sense to me in this picture of Cara just being like, look, I just want to keep my star. Rachel is saying if I don't vote for her, she won't take my star. Granted, that's a lot of faith to put into someone who has 2 women allies and only 3 stars can be given to women at this point in time. But I get it. It's like, I don't have a need to do this. We know where the vote is going. I won't say your name. You don't take my star.
I didn't dislike the move. I think it was still good that Cara did that because we see the aftermath of what does end up happening. Rachel sticks true to her word. Cara stuck true to her word. The only issue you run into is you piss off Cam, and that's where problems lie. However, Cara is a strong competitor where I don't think she could necessarily get put in per se, but if someone that is a little bit weaker and not as strong did the move that Cara did, I think then they would become more of a target than Cara is going to become in Cam's eyes, because Cam will probably have an easier time of getting that person versus getting a Cara.
Yeah, and if you compare the two, and Dan, I'll let you go right after this, is if you're worried about who are you pissing off between Cara and Cam, tail of the tape. Who's won seasons before? It's Cara, not Cam. Who has more eliminations wins? Cara, not Cam. Granted, over a longer period of time. Who is doing better in the dailies where they're coming in virtually first or second place in every single one? It's Cara and not Cam. So it's like, sure, Cam will be in the middle and will have voting power. But if you take Cara's star, she will just win and then put herself into elimination.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing I wanted to point out is it's been since X's that we've seen Rachel and Cara on a season together. I believe it's the only one that they did.
Yeah.
But that goes back, 15 plus years. We don't know how close they are because we haven't seen it play out. Maybe they haven't really talked much since, or maybe they do keep in touch. So it's hard to say that if Cara does have a pretty decent relationship with Rachel, why would she just vote against her friend if they do have that friendship? Like I said, I don't know. It's just a theory.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So this will bring us to deliberation. The guys is pretty easy, very quickly. It's Cyrus and it's Kefla. And I think that gets taken care of in about 6 seconds.
Everyone's like, they already agreed to play in the elimination. Is it worth discussing? No. Let's talk about the women.
Yeah, let's talk about
I love
the women.
Brandon. I love Brandon starting out with, if it was up to me, I'd put Ayanna twice, and then I realized if I did that, Ayanna would come back.
So good.
Yeah, so he has that great line, and then this is where Cam kind of makes her pitch of saying, this is what I need to have happen. If you have my back and you're my friend, this is the way I need you to vote. I need you to vote Ayanna and Rachel.
Yeah, so like we go through those votes, and like we have Jasmine support and Jay support, but like I think my issue was that it wasn't just Cara who threw astray. Like Laurel also threw stray. Like other people threw stray votes around because at that point it didn't matter. So I truly didn't understand the sense of betrayal that Cam was at least projecting in confessional towards Cara, and like, oh, I'm so disappointed in her. Like, we are friends. I'm like, you should if you're friends, you should also understand it's not a one-way street. Like, you want something, but she also wants something. Like, Cara has her star. Cara doesn't want her star taken away. You should be able to empathize with that as a friend and be like, maybe I was asking too much of you to vote against your own interest just because I need Ayanna gone, who isn't a threat.
Especially like you mentioned, Alex, when it doesn't matter at this point. By the time Cara votes, the
Just the last
matchup is
vote.
already set. It doesn't matter where she votes. That's a good way of, Cam, you're still getting what you wanted, and I'm still keeping my word to Rachel. It's a win-win. I don't think it was this big deal that Cam's making
Like-
it out to be.
Like, maybe Kara shouldn't just be so upfront and saying I'm playing a defensive game and I'm not gonna vote for Rachel because she will take my star if I pick her. But like, come on, like you have to understand your friend's situation in the game. And at that point, Ayana was already in, and Rachel was already in.
Right, because I think if roles were reversed, if you swap them in that scenario, Cam's absolutely going to do what Cam wants to do to keep her star. So
Yep.
I definitely think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep going.
That's what I mean. I just definitely think if you switch the two there, the outcome does not change.
The only reason why it ultimately changes also is like it's a good move because Rachel at this point in time is very much playing off a I'm a woman of my word type of player. Like, you do right by me, I won't do wrong on you. Where you get to the point at the end of the episode where she has 3 options of people she could steal stars from, and like one's an ally and 2 didn't vote her. And she's like, well, I'm a woman of my word, and she just switches the star between allies, which I'll get to that part in a little bit.
But I also think that it's what if Rachel and Kara can make, this bond, this alliance. I think it makes sense for Kara. I get that she's lower on her list because that Tina and Veronica are there. If we're being honest, the 2 of them are most likely getting eliminated at some point. And who's Cam really tight with as far as the females go? You could make an argument of a few different people. You know who none of them are? People that are winning dailies. So it was already talked about. I think as long as Kara's looking at it as if I don't win, Rachel has a good shot at winning as well. And if I make sure that she's never coming for my star, the 2 of us can kind of protect each other for as long as possible in this game.
Absolutely.
This will bring us into elimination where it's called Down the Tube, a giant tube with a giant ball inside of it. Goal is to get the other person and the ball out. Pretty straightforward. I don't know if this is maybe a new alternative to like a hall brawl because it's not as violent, but I think it works.
No, I thought it worked. I enjoyed watching it. I don't think I needed the spinning. Like, I don't really feel like that did much. Maybe it did more to the players as they were doing it than to us as viewers. But I liked it. I thought it was fun. It made me like remember just like silly like carny type games you would play as kids as well. Of like you'd have those big like stability balls, like those bouncy stability balls, and you would just each have one and just run straight at each other to see who will go flying. It's like that's what it reminded me of. And you have the guys go first, and I was like, oh, Kefla winning. And I love when the references. I love our boy. I hope it's still Pete doing all this music because you have like Kefla and Cyrus like talking about like the dog mentality, the barking, and they instantly cut to X gonna give it to you. And I was like, oh, Kefla, and they show Kefla. I'm like, oh no, Kefla about to put in that work.
Yeah, I had that in my notes as well, that having the song come into it, it was perfect. And it was more Kefla, just all the way through too. He had an awesome elimination. He pretty much he did dominate the first round.
He did dominate. It's not pretty much. He did dominate. Don't let the confessionals sway anything here, people. It was not a solid strategy of Cyrus to be at the very end of the tube and then just trying to pin himself there, because both people who did that technique lost. So was it a good technique? No, it was this is my last chance at hope that potentially this dude tires out. Kevlar got the width on him. He got the bulk. He got the weight. He got the speed, the tenacity, the dog. Cyrus just got there. In and out in 24 hours.
Doing that too, you're just extending the challenge in my eyes. It's inevitable that you're going to end up losing it. So it's just the never giving up mentality, basically, but they were dead to the water.
They're pretty much dead to the water, but I mean, don't forget All-Stars 3. Like, Darrell had Jordan dead to rights.
And his body gave out.
Yeah. had it all the way at pretty much Darrell needed to go, another foot, and he won. And Jordan was able to hold off long enough to the point that,
That was
Darrell's
different,
body
though.
gave up. It was, but I mean,
that's a different challenge.
it is, but I'm
There's
just
no ball
saying,
in between you.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that taking away from Kefla, he did dominate the challenge, and clearly it didn't work. Because if you were going to do that strategy, you needed to do it further up in the tube of just trying to tire him out.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that it's necessarily over, because we have seen things like that happen in the past where, oh, this is over. Wait, no, it's not.
Yeah, and then I loved afterwards, after he wins the second time, he does like the whole, like, it's that social media bit, the TikTok bit. Oh, my hamstring. He goes down and just starts twerking on the ground.
Love it.
Character.
National treasure, Kefla.
See, this is why I instantly put him in the same tier as Letarian for All Stars eliminations for me. They crack me up, and they're dogs.
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward. So Kefla wins. Cyrus, thanks for hanging out here for 18 hours, but time to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And so next we have the Ayanna versus Rachel matchup, and I was impressed a little bit at first because it did seem like Ayanna was pushing Rachel around. I won't say pushing her around, wasn't getting her to the edge, but it seemed like it was going well for a few seconds before it wasn't.
Yeah, like it was something I was thinking about as like right after the guy's elimination. I'm like, oh, like size could matter a little more than people thought here, and like Ayanna is like just like body like bone structure bigger than Rachel. Like Rachel's fit as anything, but I was like, what's going to win out? Is size going to win out, or is just like sheer like muscle power and technique going to win out? And ultimately, the technique outlasts someone like Ayanna, even when she's calling on her children for strength. Which, I'll be real, if I was competing against Ayanna and I'm starting to hear her, like this person shout names of children, I think I would actually lose my focus.
You could take it that way, but also being like this person, like they're digging as deep as they possibly can. Like they don't have much left. Like I just need to weather whatever the storm is for the next minute on this. And she's gassed.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like Rachel figured it out where Cyrus couldn't, where it's like it was all about the leg leverage. You need to have a lot of leg strength there and being able to put yourself in a position where even if the other person's just like bashing into the ball, that you're able to just pin yourself in a position where not only are you holding, but then as soon as that person starts tiring down, you can immediately be on the offensive.
What do y'all think the matchup would be if you put Laurel down there? Because Laurel's about the same size as Rachel, right? Size for size and height. Or is Laurel a lot taller?
Laurel's
taller.
Like
yeah.
Laurel has,
okay.
She's like volleyball girl height, at least.
Yeah, I know. But I thought Rachel's tall though too. Yeah.
I'm not sure, honestly. It's hard to tell with the women.
Yeah, can you look that up? Because
we're getting research on this right now.
How that would go with them, because they're more size for size equivalent to each other.
All right, so Rachel Robinson is 5'7".
Oh, Laurel's definitely way taller than.
Laurel's 5'11".
Yes, and
Rachel just comes across tall to me. Just how some people do.
It's the build. It's the build.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rachel wins out here, ends Ayanna's time. So now like we're at this point of like Rachel and Kefla need to make choices. And Kefla's more old school. He probably knew Steve. So Kefla does take Brad's. And of course, Brad's just like, well, I'm one of the best people here. That wasn't a wise choice as I hold my beard that has a scrunchie in it.
Yeah, I mean, what else was his really choice? I mean, I guess his choice could have been to steal a star from one of the women, but that doesn't really make sense for him either.
No, it was really either you take
anyone.
Steve or Brad. And honestly, I think there is like merit to taking a strong person's star, especially if you have low capital, and Steve apparently has better capital than we are thinking post the first episode. maybe it's just based off of who's actually going into voting power and whatnot. But like some of these old schooler people, I think, are rocking with him. But at the same time, it's like in theory, you and him are out there as like easy options, but maybe they would be more likely to take Steve's than yours.
It's also, if you look at it, it makes sense because sure, Brad may be one of the better guys out there that's currently, you know, given it what he's up against, but taking his star away from him, it's forcing him that he has to go into elimination. And once you get down in there, anything could happen. It could be something that doesn't suit Brad. So I don't hate that either because, hey, Brad's going to come down. If he comes down and wins and takes it back, well, you know, that's fine. But he has to put himself at risk where maybe he goes home and we just get rid of Brad.
For sure. But then we get to the main one, and that's Rachel, because one of the things that Rachel and Cara talked about was like, could we even find out that you don't have to take a star if you already have one? But TJ confirms that no matter what, a star has to be stolen. But it doesn't have to be your gender. He re-clarifies that. And so she ultimately decides to take Tina's star and give it to Veronica, which I'm sure they already all discussed amongst each other of between that three. And I get it if that's like the last call you can make, but at the same time, I wouldn't put stock in putting a star on Veronica so early, especially when she's going to be in the lower tier of performers week in, week out. Like you won't even need the steal star. You'll be able to steal the star from her like corpse after you beat her in elimination. Like that's the position that you're potentially putting her in. But it was also sort of the same position that Tina could be in as well. But like I honestly at this point in time, depending on the comp, have more faith in Tina in elimination than I do Veronica.
I was right there with Tina. I was so devastated for her. She worked so hard for that star to see it get taken back. It was heartbreaking.
The iconic elimination of her versus nobody.
What would you suggest an alternative then, in your opinion, Alex, if she were not to have done the transfer between the two?
Well, in my head, I would have potentially taken a guy or like taken Steve's star and given it to somebody, but apparently they were feeling good with each other. So, like, and that's the hard part. It's like, what do you truly want? Rachel truly wants, at the end of the day, to have all three of them have stars.
Right.
But I think you just give it to anybody at this point. Try to pin a target onto someone else by giving them a star, because this is a long game. Like, it's a short game in all like days wise, but the game just started, and I don't think you want to have so much visibility amongst your group of people as they are making it, even though everyone knows it. I think there's a case to be made that you take Tina's star and you give it to someone that you want to have the house focus on.
Well, and two, there was less options because Adam had won. So Adam's is not up for grabs. And I think that's another issue that they ran into. They're saying everyone's is up for grabs. Then I think it becomes a different story.
I think we're 1 or 2 episodes away from using that strategy of stealing a star to put a target on someone's back. I firmly believe it's coming at some point, and I'd imagine sooner rather than later, because once you get to like episode 8, 9, at that point, you just want to hold on to that star. But I could see someone using that strategy in the next week or two.
Yeah, because like you either have one or two thoughts. You have the Cara approaches, win early, keep it at all costs. Or you have to do that strategy of, I'm going to wait my time. My time will come. It does not need to be the third cycle of the game to have this star. Let's have other people, other big dogs go at each other, and then maybe I get an elimination that I can luck out on, and I can get myself in a star with a position where I can just cakewalk into the final. So I know I'd sort of dance around your question, but that's sort of the approach I would have in terms of just like what I would have done. I don't know what the name would be. That depends on them and their situation within the game. But I wouldn't have just transferred it between Tina and Veronica, because I also just think, for me personally, it puts a connotation on both of them where it's like, oh, they only have stars because of Rachel, which is true. And two, it's like Rachel's not going to be able to defend you all the time. And now I may not even need to steal a star if you are a star holder who's always going to be in the bottom half of people in dailies.
Yeah, how do we think that would work? So say
you steal their star. Like, I think like if you had someone with a star down there
you
against
just
someone
take
who doesn't
theirs.
have a star,
Right.
you get their star. You don't have to steal a star because you stole the star by beating them. Now, if there was two people who had stars down there, I think what would happen is you would win a star or you would keep your star and then you would give out the other star.
Give out the one that went away. That makes sense.
That would make sense.
Which I want to see happen.
I don't think that would happen until the very end.
Oh yeah, it won't happen until late because of options, like you said, Lauren. As numbers get smaller, the likelihood of someone with a star being down there, it's just going to get greater and greater each episode. So I'm excited to see if and when that happens.
I could also see for dumb luck, I don't know, say that it's like Steve and Kefla. I don't want to say Kefla. So Steve and Adam end up in the bottom two or in the bottom group. I'd be curious to see if the middle group was just like, what happens in this situation? We're just going to throw them in and figure it out. That way we know for later on in the game.
Because the only other option they would have there is they let the star go. Like if Survivor is like you burned an idol. And then the next daily TJ announces the top placing guy in this daily gets the star that just went out the door. Because those are the only options I feel that can happen. But it'll be interesting. And to be fair, Dan, just because we always like to make callbacks to other names, I misheard you when you started talking, and I thought you were making a case for Dunbar. Like, he's not on this season.
Well, he should be on this season.
With Danny J and Derrick Henry and Namvo, I know.
Yeah, it'd be the greatest alliance ever.
They all go home in the first round.
Probably. If there's a group,
Nambo never makes it to the premiere.
If there's a group of people
true.
that could figure out how to make that happen, it would be them. But don't disrespect Dunbar, challenge champion right there.
I love how you said don't disrespect him, but I could disrespect your boy Danny J.
I mean, he's just, it's more, it's the irony. I never have once said that he's a great competitor or that would ever win anything. I just always found him entertaining, not because he was trying to be entertaining. It was just how he was trying to act so hard. You're like, oh, you're not. That's what I always found entertaining about it.
Okay. Well, I made sure before this pod ended that we had multiple references of a lot of our ironic favorites. So that gets us to the end of the episode, Dan.
Yeah, that's going to wrap it up. Any final thoughts from either of the two of you?
I'm vibing. I'm loving this season. Can't wait for next Wednesday.
Same. It's been good so far, and I'm looking forward to the star situations unfolding because I think that's just going to tip it off as a top tier.
Completely agree. So the three of us will be back covering episode 4 next week. We appreciate everyone checking it out. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. That way you get notified whenever we go live. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcast at, please make sure to rate and review us 5 stars. And as always, the best way to support the podcast is become a patron at realitypatron.com. Join us, sign up for a month. If you don't like it, Johnny will send your money back. It gets you access to the secret Facebook group, the Q&A that's happening, and there's a lot of great things that are going to be happening on the Reality After Show horizon. So stay tuned for us. We will be back next week. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Lauren. We will see you then.